Welcome to another session of weCONECT, where we explore the ideas, companies, and key players that continue to raise the bar in eDiscovery.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of weCONECT. I'm Ian Campbell, CEO of iCONECT, and today with me is Kenya Dixon, who is General Counsel and Chief Operating Officer of Empire Technology Risk Management Group, commonly referred to as ETRM. Welcome, Kenya.
Hello, Ian. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you today. Hey, tell us a little bit about ETRM Group and who they are and what they do.
Well, Empire Technologies Risk Management Group is a holding company that was created to bring on board and acquire other companies within the data world, if you will, with a focus and an emphasis on cybersecurity. And so we do cybersecurity, we do eDiscovery, information governance, risk management, but all of that is really data focused with a true center of cybersecurity. All of your data has to be secure. So that's the idea. The other idea behind the creation of this company initially was that we really wanted something, a public facing entity that could help the government secure services and goods in this space that they really wanted and really needed, as opposed to what was being sold to them. I spent many years in the federal government, and one of the hardest things is acquiring what you need to make the mission of your agency go. And so I just wanted to make sure that federal agencies had someone that understood how it all worked and was willing to provide that in an easy manner, if you will, as easy as acquisitions can be in the federal government, but provide that to federal agencies.
Good. And you talk about federal. I think for the most part, your organization is Washington D.C. based. Is federal the only market that ETRM focuses on?
No, we have a Chicago office and we have a New York office. So the majority of our offices actually are not government facing, but the majority of my work, my day-to-day work, really is government facing.
Got it. Now, you talked a little bit about your background. You and I have spoken together on panels, and we've known each other for a number of years. And tell us a little bit about how you ended up in the eDiscovery game and really running a company.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I graduated from law school in 1812, quite a while ago. I graduated from William and Mary and moved to this area and became a litigator. So came out of law school and went straight into court, arguing cases. And so I was licensed in Virginia, licensed in DC, ended up at a large law firm, pretty large law firm, Epstein, Becker and Green, and was a litigator there for a number of years.
Right.
I left the practice of law for a few years to raise my child. I had a child, and then came back to Epstein, Becker and Green, spent some more time there, and then went to McDermott, Will and Emery. And at some point in time, I got a divorce, and being a single parent and a litigator wasn't easy. So I decided to see if I could find a 9-to-5, and ended up at Lockheed Martin, where I learned technology. Lockheed is known as the Harvard of technology. And I learned a great deal of technology there. And I was always kind of technology engineering minded anyway. And so it was a really good fit. Spent some time there, and then ended up being asked to go into the FDIC to help them with an end-to-end information governance program. Spent some years there, then went to do the same thing at the Federal Trade Commission, gutted and rebuilt the entire support program, the infrastructure and everything, and then left and went to the White House to kind of do the same thing. I was asked to go there to kind of put in some protocols, some defensible protocols for the data, because there were investigations, as you are aware from the news. There were a number of investigations that they knew were coming down, subpoenas, and really the White House is not a litigating agency, if you will. It is not designed for litigation. And so they needed a lot of that infrastructure to be put in place, a lot of that workflow and those defensible processes to be put in place to prepare for what was coming. So I did a lot of that with forensics, eDiscovery, information assurance, worked a lot with cybersecurity, did some other things, and then came to ETRM Group. And so that's how I got
Fantastic.
here. That's the long, that's the short. It's really been a long ride, but I've enjoyed every step of it.
Yeah, and again, in doing that, you've certainly had the ability to touch and work with technology, all kinds of different technology. The iCONECT platform is one that that ETRM uses. Is there is there a reason why for some of your projects iCONECT becomes a component of what you're offering to solve business problems for your clients?
So, I've known you a long time. The very first Lockheed Martin tool that I ever used was iConnect. It had been rebranded as Import. So that's what Department of Justice was using. And that's the tool that I really, in the law firms that I worked at, we had a bunch of different tools fly by night. None of those tools still exist. I remember once using a tool that the managing partner's son had created, and the servers were in California, and every morning they crashed. So none of those tools existed. And then I got trained at Lockheed on iConnect and started using it. The attorneys at DOJ really liked it. It was user interface was great.
Right.
It was scalable. And so that always kind of stuck with me. The market changed. We use a lot of different tools moving forward. And then when I was at the Federal Trade Commission, what I realized was that many of the tools I had come across disappeared in 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just even if they were great tools, they just disappeared. They either were absorbed into another company, sold, they were bankrupt. The technology, something happened to the technology. It wasn't being upgraded. They lost their chief engineers. And so iConnect was still around. There was another large competitor in this space. And so I decided that really the best thing for the Federal Trade Commission was for them to have the tools that seemed to really have longevity in the marketplace, that were easy to use for attorneys, because attorneys are not technologists. They don't really want their tools, the user interface, to tell them everything that they can do. You need experts to do all of that stuff, but they want to be able to find the interface to be intuitive, if you will, for them. And so I really wanted, 2 or 3 of the best tools in the marketplace for that agency. I loved that agency. I loved their mission. And then moving forward, I said, well, I got to the White House, they had 9 components. Every component didn't want the same tool. They wanted different tools. And some of those components wanted iConnect. iConnect had a fabulous feature, which is called Cover, which helps with FOIA. It does auto redaction in a way that, not very, there really is almost no other competitor to this tool that you have. And so I want the federal government to be able to get tools that work for them, that work for their workflow. And so iConnect is one of those tools. And I am a person who's tool agnostic, but for the federal government, it's not a good idea to go with something that's brand new. You have to have years of users in your software who can pull the bugs out and can give feedback on how it should work. Very few tools have that nowadays. You have to have an understanding of the federal government workflow, which is very different than the way law firms use it. iConnect does that. And I have to have a relationship with the company. I need to know the company is steady. It can't be a company that's going to disappear tomorrow. And so that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to be able to provide that tool to the federal government along with other tools.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's some interesting use cases, and we've been, as a company, we've been thrilled to be involved in with those agencies on some very complex projects. But that's sort of where we are today. But I mean, looking over the horizon, there are changes coming. You just talked about privacy is certainly a change. The security is an area, obviously, that Empire Technology Risk is focusing on. You've got the massive amounts of data being generated every single day. Are those some of the things that you're seeing as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because attorneys are not naturally desirous of more technology. But if you watched, we recently had an attempted insurrection or coup in our nation's capital. And for those of us in the technology world, we were very excited because we knew artificial intelligence was going to be used to identify faces in the Capitol. And so we were following that technology and so excited in a very strange and creepy kind of way because we were like, oh, what tool are they using? And maybe they're using this tool, maybe they're using that technology. How are they going to keep, what repositories are they going to use? How are they going to review all that data? What are they, we were really very hyped about this, even though it was a tragedy at the time. The use of technology to resolve some of those issues, we know that we know that law enforcement is using those tools. Mm-hmm. We know that because of COVID, all through 2020 and now so far into 2021, law firms and industry have been breached. We know that the Russians have hacked a large number of our infrastructure, our government and our private sector repositories. How do we get them out? How do we rebuild? Sure. All of that is, to me, the most exciting thing that's ever happened. It rivals having kids to me. It's just very exciting. And we're talking about it all the time. What does it mean? What does it mean that artificial intelligence, when it comes to facial recognition software, 100% of white male faces are pretty much identified correctly, but 35% of Black women's faces are incorrectly identified with artificial intelligence software as it exists now. What does that mean?
Right.
And how do you fix it? And does that mean that it becomes a manual process after you've done the technical process? What does all of this technology mean? How will it be used? How will it be secured? These are questions that we're answering now in the industry, and trying to provide resources to all of these different areas. And so it's exciting, it's intellectually stimulating. And I think out of chaos comes ingenuity.
Yeah. And I think certainly with your background and Empire Technology Risk Management Group's tenure in investigation and forensics and cyber, you guys are in great shape to tackle some of the concerns that people are going to have, either short term or long term. So tell us a little bit about Empire Technology Risk Management Group, how people can learn more about what you do.
Well, you can always go to etrmgroup.com and read more information. We have a blog. I write articles. We have a blog where there are other sorts of information, some podcasts and some webinars are coming out. We have a webinar that we're going to be putting out about the Association of Corporate Counsel Data Steward Program, which is the cybersecurity protocol solution for law firms and corporations. We are thus far the only accredited recommended service provider. It's a mouthful, but we are working with law firms and corporations to help them get self-assessed and get accredited through this program, so that everyone has a benchmark and a standard for the industry. This is really very new. We're excited about that. So please, you can Google me, Kenya Parrish Dixon, or you can go to etrmgroup.com. A lot of information there.
That's great. Well, thank you, Kenya. Appreciate the time today. We've been speaking with Kenya Dixon, the General Counsel and Chief Operating Officer for Empire Technology Risk Management Group. I'm Ian Campbell, CEO of iCONECT. Look forward to future interviews with others. And thanks for joining us today on weCONECT.
Thank you.
weCONECT, brought to you by iCONECT, making information accessible.